Hello, everyone. We are live and welcome to the weekly show of What is School For? This is actually a new live streaming show that I recently launched, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago. This show is really inspired by my interview with the one and only Seth Golden, who really encouraged me to ask this question. What is school for? What is the purpose of education? Why do we even go to school? And what do we want to learn from school? The traditional school, non-traditional school. And today I'm really honored to have my dear friend Geige to be on the show. And he is the co-founder of Streamyard, which is what I'm using right now to go live on LinkedIn. Hello, everyone on LinkedIn and Facebook and Periscope and YouTube. And it is so meta that I have been using this for quite some time, quite a few months. And now finally I have Geige on the show and really honored. And so thank you for joining us live.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here, and it's really cool to. I feel like I know you. I do know you really well, but we've never actually spoken face to face. So this is fantastic.
Yeah,
and I love.
Totally. So my live streaming journey started almost 3 years ago, and I tried so many third-party native platforms to go live, and I have to say that StreamYard is my number one, is my personal favorite. It is so easy to use. It is so easy to go live. And now I can go live on different platforms using StreamYard. So thank you so much. You and your co-founder, you guys are super smart. I just love this platform so much. So thank you.
Well, that's great to hear. Thank you for using it. And you've been so helpful with your feedback and things like that. And it's been a while since you started using it. So you've been incredibly helpful for all kinds of things. So definitely thank you. And
thank you.
And I'm excited to be on this show as well. I think it's a very good topic and subject, and education is ripe for disruption, I think. So.
Absolutely. As you know that my hashtag classroom without walls, I believe the best education happens outside the classroom. And I personally worked in higher education as a college professor for 10 plus years. And I think the model is so broken. So I'm really excited to have you on the show, Geige, to talk about the difference between schooling and education and what it takes for you to get to where you are today. You know, how school has prepared you and not prepared you to get to where you are today. We have parents joining us. We have educators, forward-thinking parents watching this right now. So thank you in advance and in terms of everything you are going to share with us. So first, I want to get started just in case those people who are live with us right now, and also let me know where you are joining us from, social media wise and geographically speaking. And hey, Peter, we will miss you. And so he's based in London. Yeah. Oh, look, who is here? Come on, Anton is here. We just had an amazing time at the Global Marketing Day organized by Anton and his amazing team at SEM Rush. And I talked about live streaming. I give you guys a big shout out to StreamYard. So thank you for joining us live, Anton. And so give us quite a quick overview of like StreamYard and share with us what inspired you to develop, you and your co-founder to develop this app.
Yeah. So for anyone that doesn't know what StreamYard is, it's a live streaming tool that's based in your browser. And the whole idea is to just make it really easy for people to go live and basically build a brand or a community. That's sort of the goal with StreamYard. And as far as why Dan and I built StreamYard is Dan and I have known each other for a really long time. I don't actually know, maybe 9 years now or something like that. I don't know what the exact number is, but we met in university. So education helped me in that sense that I met Dan. So I do appreciate it for that. So in university, we didn't actually study anything related to what we're doing now. Well, it's somewhat related, but not directly related. So I studied electrical engineering, and Dan's background was in mechanical engineering. And we just worked on projects together throughout university and really liked working together. And I think it was towards the middle of our education that we started really getting into software. We just loved how easy it was to sort of get something up and running quickly. Like if you have a hardware project or you're designing a bridge, it's going to cost you a significant amount of money and time and resources to get something that can actually help people. But with software, it's pretty awesome because all you need is a couple people, some computers, and you can start making something meaningful extremely quickly, especially because of the cloud and things like that. So that's how we got into software. And then I sort of pushed us towards, for people that know what the term is, voice over internet protocol type applications. That's just a fancy word for things like Skype and Zoom.
That's fancy. Yeah.
Those types of applications. Just because I love the internet, it's always fascinated me. I love what it did for people from like an entrepreneurial perspective, and also just from a community perspective. Like before the internet, you could have maybe a niche interest in something that you couldn't really find anyone in your area that was interested in. And once the internet came along, suddenly there's thousands and thousands of people that could form around these interests and build communities around those interests and develop businesses for those interests. So it's always just been something that's very special to me. And voice over internet protocol is sort of, I don't know, maybe the epitome of connecting remotely across the world. So I wanted to do something in that space. So that's how Dan and I got involved in that space. And
wow, that's exciting. Yeah.
So prior to Streamyard, we had worked together on another project that was a meeting application, and that sort of wrapped up. And then we were sort of looking at what was out there and what we could work on next. And live streaming is very interesting to us, particularly because, I don't know, are you familiar with a platform called Twitch?
Yes.
Yeah. So Twitch, neither Dan and I were not really gamers, and we're not super interested in gaming, but Twitch was very interesting to us from a business perspective because if anyone remembers, it's been around for a long time. It used to be like Justin TV, and back.
I used to follow Justin on Snapchat.
Oh yeah, I should check him out. But back then, there's been lots and lots of live streaming applications, and it's been a very hard thing for people to get right. And Twitch was sort of the first one that did it in a really big way. And I think our sort of hypothesis about why that was is because it was gaming. So gaming is the reason why it worked, because gamers, they can sort of offload entertainment towards the video game, and they can sort of distract with that. And then they also have the equipment that's necessary to produce a good live stream, because they play these video games that require fancy equipment. And they're also usually generally pretty tech savvy, so they can set up a live stream. So we sort of figured that's why it became such a big thing for the gaming community. And it was amazing what Twitch did for that community. So there's now professional games commentators, and there's a whole industry that I think there's probably a lot of things that contributed towards it, but Twitch was huge for it, in my opinion. So we sort of wanted to bring what Twitch did for video games to people that weren't tech savvy. So people that, I don't know, maybe you like fishing, or maybe you're interested in cars and you don't even know what a browser tab is, but you still have interesting subjects to talk about, and you still have and you can still create good content. It's just you don't have the technical know-how. So we wanted to make a tool that was extremely easy, very little. You didn't really have to think about anything. You could just go live and feel empowered to create a show. And sure, there's no video game that you can offload the entertainment to, but by having guesting features, you can do interviews and things like that, which make it much easier to create an entertaining show versus just staring at a camera and trying to think of what to say.
Absolutely. I love this feature, and my journey, as I mentioned earlier, I have been live streaming for quite a few years, and I love doing interviews, and especially when you are interviewing like leaders like you, thought leaders in the industry. People think you are also amazing when you are interview amazing people. So I discovered it is such a great way to really grow and build your personal brand. Like, for example, after my interview with Seth Godin, I got so many messages from people. People think Seth and I were like best friends. And so that is absolutely not true. I don't even know him. I just sent him an email. So very interesting to hear this. And I just love this. I hope so. I love ICM Rush, and I love StreamYard. I hope two people can eventually get together, and that would be really, really awesome. And so share with us how like in terms of the knowledge and the skills, how has the knowledge that you learned from your formal education prepared you and not prepared you to build a startup, to build StreamYard?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I'll try to unpack it.
You don't have to be diplomatic.
So as far as So I have a lot of problems with education in general, but in my personal education, I was relatively happy with. The most important part of it that I think helped me today was probably early education. Like I think like if you ever heard of Kumon, I think Kumon was very helpful for me, believe it or not. And I had like I went to private school when I was younger. I think that was very helpful for me. As far as the more like later on education, I didn't study, so that's one testament to how maybe a formal education isn't very important, because almost all the skills I use today and everything I do today is not anything I learned in university. But my university was it was a bit more forward thinking in that it had a co-op program. So
Wow.
every year we would do an internship basically. And go work for a company. So during that time, I worked for Intel a couple times. I worked for a consulting engineering firm in Vancouver. So that was great. So that was that was really helpful for figuring out what I wanted to do, and it actually really showed me that I didn't really want to. I wanted to do my own thing. So that was I wasn't a great employee. So that it was helpful for showing me that. But the thing that is, so everything that led to StreamYard happened after that. So Dan and I, after university was over, and we were sort of talking about the jobs we had done. Like, yeah, I don't really want to. We sort of knew we wanted to start a venture together. We didn't really want to just go work for a company, and we had never done any web development prior to working on the first meeting application we created. So everything we learned was from blogs, the internet. It was all outside of formal education. We did have a good base that we were starting with. So I learned a lot from university as far as just like how to solve an engineering problem. And we had experience programming like microcontrollers, for anyone that knows what that is, and things like that. It's completely different than web programming, though. So the things that taught me the most were pretty much just like blog posts that you'd Google, like how do I make this, and then just sort of going down the deep rabbit hole of people that show you, because there's this huge open source community that's just so willing to help and share how they do things. So that's essentially how I learned everything I know today about about voice over internet protocol, about network programming, about front end web development, about back end development, about distributed systems. Like there's all kinds of stuff that all of that was from like Google blog posts, Medium posts. And also I have to give I have a lot of respect for companies like Google Cloud and Amazon Web Services, who have an insane amount of resources for people who want to learn how to use them. So if you just want to learn, like say you're into something that's really popular now, like neural nets or like artificial intelligence. Like if you just go to Google Cloud, they give you they give you a free credit to try to use their resources and stuff, and they have amazing tutorials that teach you all kinds of things about how to get started and how to learn about those different things, and they're fantastic. So most of what I learned was outside of formal education.
Wow, I just like so many great points, and we have like 30 plus people join us live right now, and we are talking about schooling versus education and sharing Geige his personal journey to get to where he is today. He's the co-founder of Streamyard, which is what I'm using right now to go live on LinkedIn and on Facebook and Periscope and on YouTube. So I really loved how you mentioned, like you said that many of the skills that you are using right now, you didn't gain them from the formal educational background. I want you to be specific. So what are the skills that you are talking about? So in other words, what do you think are some important like skills that really helped you, or maybe even values, or habits that get to where you are today? So can you just give us some specific list? And so I want people to hear those things so that we can, many people who are joining us right now, they are educators and also forward-thinking parents. They have children who may want to start their own company. So I want you to list out those specific skills or habits or values that you kind of acquired later outside of the formal educational environment.
Sure. Yeah, I'll try to be more specific. So the first, it's a long list, but the first one would just be programming in general. So what you learn in school, at least for me, what I learned in school, it's pretty dated as far as what you learn. Like it's like a lot of what, at least what I learned personally, was very sort of like sequential programming that you're not gonna use it to do anything that's too meaningful. At least the stuff I learned. Learning how to program in a meaningful way that you can actually build programs that real people would use to do real things. That all happened outside of school. There's a framework called made by Facebook, actually, called React. I learned how to use React completely outside of education, and Facebook has amazing documentation about how to use React, how it works. For people that don't know what React is, it's basically just a framework for creating web applications. And it's also you can also use React to create mobile apps, so web apps, mobile apps. So I learned how to program in a meaningful way from the internet. I learned how to be an entrepreneur. I didn't learn any. I learned none of that was. I mean, and that's not a fault of formal education, really. I don't think, just because I took engineering, I didn't take business. But as far as to show people that you can learn that outside of school, I learned everything I know about marketing. I learned from blog posts and books. And so I learned how to create an email list. I learned how to run an email campaign. I learned how to create Facebook ads. I learned how to write copy. I learned how to I learned about SEO. I learned, like you joked about earlier, I learned how to send calendar invites on Google. So yeah, I mean, almost all the skills I use, I learned from Googling it, or I learned from Facebook documentation, or I learned from, so GitHub is another amazing resource. So if you want to learn how to actually program, you like find an open source project on GitHub and just start contributing to it. You can, because it's open source, you can see all the code that's there. There's people make like pull requests to make additions to it. If you're dedicated, like, you can learn so much from these people that they work for free on these awesome projects, and you can work with, like, if you want to start programming, just start reading those pull requests and start looking at the actual code. And before you know it, you'll start actually contributing in a meaningful way to actual projects.
I just love everything you mentioned so much. And by the way, just want to say hi to my dear friend Aaron Lee. Thank you for joining us. And it is so true, like for so many, like just the calendar event example you mentioned. So recently I got invited to do a podcast interview with a few students from a really well-known private university in the United States. I was like, yeah, let's do this. Send me a calendar invite. So it turned out this student had no idea how to send a calendar invite. I was like, wow, I was so shocked. So I had to manually enter the information on my calendar by myself. And also I love from what you shared, I think to build a company, and even in this day and age, if we want to become successful, we have to know so many skills. It's not just one. When you go to school, there's one major, there's one discipline that we choose, which is also my PhD. So siloed, so narrow focused, just one specific field. And now I'm running my own business, and I learned there are so many things that I have to learn. I love how futurist Toffler, I think he mentioned that, the illiterate of the 21st century are not those.
I think I lost you, if you can hear me. I'm just going to check. Just check on Facebook to make sure we're still up. Okay, we'll wait for I to get back. I think her internet cut out. It looks like I am still on the show. So thank you everyone for joining us today. We're talking about education. I'd be curious if you guys let us know in the comments what your backgrounds are, what your education is, and what your opinions are on these topics. Let me know. If you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them until I gets back. So let me know. Okay. Hey, Brandon. Yeah, I think she disconnected. So yeah, I guess one cool story I can share with people is probably one of the things that got me really into entrepreneurial type stuff was, like I said before, in my university program, we had co-ops, which were basically just paid internships where we would go and work for a company. And for one of those internships, Dan and I actually did I can't remember what the term for it was, but an independent one, or it might have even been called an entrepreneurial one. But basically, we were just allowed to go do a project on our own for 4 months as a university credit. And that was really eye-opening to me for like, it showed me, it was terrifying actually, because it showed you don't know how much you don't know until you try to build something without any sort of direction or without someone telling you like some narrow scope of what you need to do. So Dan and I basically, we wanted to make a music visualizer. So we did everything from it was not an advanced project. So it was like, we did acid etched circuit boards. We programmed the whole thing. We installed all the hardware. So doing that project together really showed us like, oh, wow, there's a whole world of things that we know nothing about. So that was a great experience that was eye-opening to me, for showing me like, okay, I don't really know very many things despite being in school in engineering for multiple years. So I really should start learning about all these skills that I don't have. So that was a cool experience for me. Hopefully I can join me back here relatively soon. I'm just going to shoot her a message to see if she is fully offline or not. It looks like her Facebook is off as well, so she might be her internet might be down for the count. But yeah, if you guys have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. Gerard says 45 years of OJT and 2 degrees. Awesome. Brandon says, do you have any favorite live streaming shows that you're watching right now? Yeah, the show from the show from SEM Rush, I think it was yesterday, was pretty awesome. I really enjoyed that show. As far as other shows, I don't have a lot of time these days, to be honest, so I don't watch too many shows. But Ross Brand, I enjoy watching Ross Brand. What other live shows are out there? I don't know. That's a great question, Brandon. But I don't watch. I should watch more, but I have not been watching too many these days just because of work. I've been watching. It's not really related to education, but I've been watching Chris Hansen's show just because he uses Streamyard now. So it's been cool to see how he's using the product. Hey Tim, thanks for joining us today. Tina says, but you're open to learning and not being lazy. Yeah, that might be the hardest skill to acquire, and I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure how I even acquired that one, because I wasn't always super into just like getting up and working every day and being on top of things. It's a hard thing to do, but that's even probably. I don't even know if it's a fault of formal education. If you have the initiative to go out and learn what you want to learn, that's way more important than formal education or even side education. Is just having the initiative to get better every single day and be consistent about learning and improving and being a better version of yourself. Tina says, I remember the first time I called StreamYard and was floored to get you on the phone. Yes, that was early days. That was a long time ago. I remember that, Tina. I think that was like 6 or 7 months ago. Ursula says, how's the growth of your company? It's fantastic. So StreamYard has been around. We launched the website in October of last year, and we've grown roughly 10 to 15% week over week almost that entire time. So it's been fantastic, and we've maintained that growth. So despite the fact that we're quite large now, we have, I think, around 12,000 active broadcasters, and by active broadcasters, those are people that are actually going live every single month. We have 12,000 people that are going live every single month, which is pretty exciting. Brandon says, any thoughts on creating a download feature for podcasters that provides separate audio downloads for each person in the recording? Yeah, so right now we have the single mixed track that you can download in MP3, which has been cool because people are creating podcasts now. But yes, there are some thoughts on creating separate tracks, because I know that's important for the more power users of podcasts that want to sort of do editing after the fact. Let me just check to see if I can get in contact with I here. Otherwise, it is her show, so I should probably. Oh wait. She's. I think she might be coming back. Power went off and lost Wi-Fi. Okay, let me just tell her we're still live. I'm still here. Can you jump back on? One sec. Okay, I think she's. Don't worry, everyone. She's coming back. You won't have to hear me scramble for any longer. Ursula says, "Do you have any educators using Streamyard? How?" Yes, we have lots of educators using Streamyard. It's I wish I had specific names. I know there's. I get a lot of emails from them because we often give them a discounted rate. Some of them have been. There's a few different museums using it, so they sort of just. I think as a way to promote their museums, they'll do basically live streams to YouTube that are events where they're showing off some new demonstration that they have in the museum. So that's pretty cool. I don't know if that is considered education, but I guess nonprofits, educators using it basically just as an alternative to a webinar that's more cost effective for them. So instead of using Zoom or GoToWebinar or something, they'll just basically do the webinar on YouTube, which it actually has a lot of benefits doing it outside of that, because YouTube is essentially like a search engine, right? So by doing a webinar, I guess it's a live stream if it's on YouTube, but instead of a webinar and doing a live stream as the webinar, you get some benefits there because YouTube will start organically ranking it for keywords. And so there's educators that basically will do some sort of seminar/webinar and do that. Oh, I says she's trying to join with her phone. Okay, I think maybe a couple more minutes and she'll be back. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any other interesting use cases for educators. The fact that you can bring in remote guests, I think, is very big for them. Like, there's one organization that's going to use it for something called Giving Day. I need to read more about what exactly it is, but it's exciting because there's just so many people involved. So I think it's like something like 100 different countries get involved for Giving Day, and basically it's just about giving, right? So they give free information and education about their cause and what they're working on. So I need to read up on what exactly Giving Day is, but it's been supported by Google and organizations like that in the past. So I think it's a pretty cool cause. Okay. I can't because I'm not the host. Sorry about this. One sec. I'm just typing the I. If you... Gerard says, do you have pricing for non-profits? So we do have an entirely free version of the product. You just will have, instead of the logo up here, you'll have the StreamYard duck. So I guess to answer your question, no, we don't have specific pricing, but if there's some special event that they need sponsors for or something like that, we'll generally just give them a bunch of accounts for the time span. So if it's like, okay, we're doing a 2-week live streaming marathon for some for a good cause, we'll just give them temporary access to the entire feature set. We also did that for a podcasting event that was also, I think it was podcast day that we did that for, which was cool. Giving Tuesday, often stylized hashtag Giving Tuesday for the purposes of hashtag activism, refers to the Tuesday after U.S. Thanksgiving in the United States. It is a movement to create International Day of Charitable Giving at the beginning of the Christmas and holiday season. Thank you very much, Tina. All right, I think I is finally getting back on a computer, so hopefully she'll be back. I'm trying to match her energy. It's hard to host like I does. She's a fantastic host. Brandon says, do you know Chris Strubb? He's the Giving Day guy. I do know. I'm familiar with who he is. I didn't know that he was related to the. Hopefully, I'm not using the wrong. I might be using the wrong name. Hopefully, I'm not using the incorrect name. Forgive me if I have accidentally used the incorrect name. Brandon says, will you be doing any speaking at conferences? I don't know. Most of our growth has come from word of mouth and things like that. So I'm still, for people that don't know, I actually do a lot of development as well. So we don't outsource any of our development. Dan and I have developed the entire product. So there's not a whole lot of time. So about 70 to 80% of my time is marketing and dealing with customers and growth. And then the other 20 to 30% of my time is actual development. And Dan's pretty much 100% on development. But I would like to go to more of them. I don't know if I'd be speaking at them, but just actually attending them, because I've never actually been to a conference. And I know I'd be curious for people that do go to conferences, what's the main benefit you get from those conferences? Because I always hear great things. I almost went to Vid Summit, but I didn't end up attending. But yeah, it's something that I'd like to possibly start doing more of. But I don't know about speaking. I think it just maybe attending and connecting with people there. Tina says, does StreamYard have an affiliate program? StreamYard, we have a referral program. So it's not technically an affiliate program, but we do have a referral program. So everyone that signs up gets a unique link. And there we go.
Oh my God, everyone. My power went off. I lost Wi-Fi. I lost my electricity. Whoa. But thank you. I can hear you, everything from my phone, but I couldn't join. Thank you for being like so amazing at improvising. This is one thing I learned with live streaming. Everything will go wrong, can go wrong, or everything can go wrong, will go wrong. I don't even know how to talk. But thank you for being a host and co-host. So thank you so much, Geige.
No, of course. I'm glad to have you back.
I hope you guys learn more about StreamYard. The show turned into a StreamYard Q&A. I love it. Only you can handle this. Any other guests or guests will be panicking. So thank you.
I was a little bit nervous, but yeah, I pulled through.
You're amazing. Let me turn off my mobile phone. It's great. So we're just talking, I think where I was talking about Toffler, how he said about like a future, who is a really amazing futurist. I really love one of his quotes is, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read or write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So I think if you are a parent or entrepreneur or anyone watching this, I love how you just have this ability to figure things out and unlearn and relearn. And I have to go through the same journey. After I got my PhD, I pretty much had to unlearn, deconstruct everything I learned, and re-educate myself. So I think this is such an important skill, and you are doing such a great job. So thank you. I hope everyone learning. Everyone is talking about the school of YouTube, the school university of YouTube or Google. I so agree. So I want to ask you. I don't know. I'm also going to go through some people's comments and see if you guys have any questions talking about this. So we kind of discussed this a little bit, Geige. So what do you think are some? You went to a pretty good school. You have the co-op, which is really nice. So what do you think are some really important missing links in our education? And if we want to help the next generation to become more future ready, to build a career, to become an entrepreneur, like what you do, not always look for this 9-to-5 job, but really leverage technology to design our life, to do what we love, to create income and impact. So what do you think are some, from your perspective, are some missing links, if you want to share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the things that would have been huge for me, that my school did manage to touch on a bit, but it could have gone so much farther, is just actually applying the stuff you're learning. Like it's hard to get super excited about differential equations when you're learning differential equations for the sake of differential equations. But when you're actually trying to solve a real problem and meet a real need, suddenly all these things become so interesting, and it's so much more rewarding, and it's not really even effort. It's just exciting to learn about. If you're learning differential equations in order to solve someone's problem, suddenly it's infinitely more interesting. So every time there was a project in school that allowed us to sort of to apply what we learned to the project, that went a really long way. So I guess to put it more precisely and simply, just more application of what you learn in school and more encouragement to actually do real things while you're in school. Because all of it's just about like, okay, make sure you pass the subject and hit on the key curriculum or the key rubric points or whatever it is. But to actually start getting the people in school to do meaningful things. So create something. Go like if you're in software engineering, have them actually contributing to real projects, because that's the beauty of open source. You can. So part of the education should be, okay, you need to have one. The language here is not going to make sense to people, but have one. They're called, when you make a change to an open source project, it's called a pull request. So it should maybe something like, okay, you need to have some of your code has to end up running on actual open source projects. That should be a focus, because it will all your subjects will become more interesting because you're actually using them in a real way. And even for things outside of software as well, which I'm less familiar with. Like, I don't know what it's like to be in language or writing or something like that, but you should be writing a book. if you want to be a writer, you should be writing blogs every single week or month. You should be. And I know kids that I went to school with that like, oh yeah, I want to be a writer. And it's like, okay, what have you written? It's like, oh, I'm learning to be a writer. It's like, it's pretty simple to become a writer. You just start writing. Like you should write. Right? Yeah.
It's so true, because I recently shared a clip of my interview with Seth Godin. So I asked him this question to share some best practices with us. And he said that the reason you are asking me this question, because you are afraid of failures and mistakes. But he said, the only way for you to figure this out is actually to do it, just like what you mentioned, But I agree, copywriting is such an important skill, and really learning, especially on social media. And sometimes I think, to have effective copies, you have to have like spacing, add emojis, learning how to write in a way to poke people's emotions, to evoke their curiosity. All those are very important skills, but not many students are learning. They read these like paragraphs. Nobody, our attention span is so short. This is what I learned. I always like, if you look at my LinkedIn posts or different social media posts, I use spacing, I use emojis, I do all sorts of things to really, speak in a way to make it easier for our audience to digest the information. So I love how you mentioned that, like you just need to keep learning, because all the social media platforms are changing all the time. Yeah. Here's a question from my dear friend in Berlin. I guess this is part of the Streamyard Q&A. So what is the percentage of your clients in Europe? Maybe you can share with us. I don't know if you already shared all over the globe. What is your clientele base?
Yeah, sure. It's there's definitely people everywhere using it. We're still heavily but North America is probably 80%, like US is probably 70%, and then the rest of North America is maybe 10%. But EU is number 2. So there's a lot of people in Europe, probably somewhere between 10 to 20% in Europe. That's something we need to do a better job of. Like right now, our site is only in English, so we need to start adding localization and different language support. One country I'm shocked by how many people are using it is Brazil. Like there's an insane number of people using the product from Brazil. So Portuguese needs to be added as far as language support goes.
That's awesome. I have quite a few friends in Brazil. I'm so happy to hear that. That's awesome. Yeah. Do you have like an ambassador program for content creators who are already like live streamers? Do you have a program like that? People can apply to become an ambassador for StreamYard?
No, it's something that we probably should have. That I'm trying to think through exactly what the program would look like and how it would work. The only thing we have right now is just a referral system. So everyone gets a unique link that they can share out, and they'll get basically Streamyard credits. But I do think there'd be a huge amount of value in an ambassador program. I just feel like it's a hard thing to get right. Like I want to make sure that we only attract ambassadors that truly enjoy the product and aren't just like
like me.
Yes, exactly like you. You'll be the first one. You'll be the first one in that program. Absolutely.
Love this. Yeah. So I hope that answered your question. Thank you so much for asking. And going back to education, I reflect on your own journey. And now I'm actually starting. I resigned from my job and I'm building my own company. I am where you were a few years ago. Oh my God. Even though I'm so much older than you.
Age doesn't matter.
So,
you're always old compared to someone, unless you're,
true.
0 or something.
So reflect on your journeys. And if you could do this again, all over again, what would you do differently, Geige?
Yeah, that's always a hard question because you don't really know. You don't really know how things would turn out if you did it differently. So I don't know if I would do it differently. But if I could talk to myself, 10 years ago, I would basically say what I said about the education system, which is like I know that when I was in high school, I thought you couldn't do anything until you had a university education. It was just like this weird imposing belief for no reason. It's just like, oh, you can't. How can I go? I can't go make something because I haven't learned how to do it yet. And if I wish someone would have just like screamed into my ear, like, no, that's not how it works. If you want to learn, if you want to do stuff, just start doing it. Like, just like go on the internet, find other people that are doing what you want to do and learn from them, read and start actually, whatever it is, what you want to do it. Just start doing it. And it will, your learning will, it will accelerate at an unbelievable rate as soon as you just start running into real problems, like running into the real things that you won't like. It's as if you went to school to learn how to ride a bike and you spent like 4 years explaining like, all right, you put your foot on the pedals and you sit on it and this is how all the parts work and this is the best color of bike versus just get on the bike and start learning how to ride the bike. That's how I feel like a lot of things work. So if I would tell myself, just figure out what you want to do and start doing it. That's what I would tell myself.
It's so true. And nowadays I have so many people ask me, hey, how do you go live? How to do this and that? People have so many questions. I was like, you know what? Your smartphone is actually good enough. Why don't you get started to see if this is something that you will actually enjoy doing, because it is lots of work. You guys just witnessed what happened. I was about to lose my mind for a second. And just like getting started, it is such a great way to gain clarity and to gain momentum and also to gain confidence. Yeah. So I love how you mentioned that. And so how do you stay relevant? You shared a few resources that you use to help you get started at this stage. So how do you stay relevant? Always looking for ways to improve StreamYard. What are some ways that you do to become this and embody this notion of lifelong student?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I just continue what I already do. So I just make sure I'm always consuming information and especially listening to the people that use our product. So that's one of the great thing about Facebook groups and community types, like not just groups, but like having some community around what you're doing is very useful because they will tell you what the trends are. They'll tell you what they want. They'll tell you what they need. So that's very helpful. And then just continuing the learning process of I still read blog posts every day about what's happening in tech. I still am constantly looking at Google Cloud documentation and AWS documentation to see what's changing in the field and what new resources that are out there. Software is a particularly difficult one to keep up with just because stuff changes so rapidly. But once you start the journey of just doing what you want to do and learning along the way, it's sort of hard to undo it. So I feel like I just continue doing what I started doing, and that's what keeps me relevant and on my toes and making sure I'm always learning.
How did you keep yourself motivated? How long, like I know, like for every single startup, gaining that very first customer is always, I think, the most challenging part. And I'm sure you have encountered quite a few challenges yourself. So how do you overcome some of those challenges, and how to How do you keep yourself motivated to keep going on this journey? And
Yeah,
I
that's
also ask this question because when I think about my own students, many of them are so afraid, including myself, the fear of being judged, the fear
yeah.
of making mistakes, the fear like what if what if something happens? So how do you share with us? How do you keep yourself motivated, get going on this journey?
Yeah, that's a really hard question. It's a good question, but a hard question. So yeah, it's definitely been a long journey. So it wasn't like people always think that like when things are when you're growing fast, like, oh, maybe it's always been like that. It's like, no, it's a long road. It's almost always a long road for whatever it is you're doing. You're not gonna. So I'm talking about like, oh, just do it. It's like that sounds really simple, but the motivation aspect is incredibly important, right? Because there's lots of people that get all fired up about that, like, oh yeah, I'm just going to do it, and then 3 days in, they're not just doing it anymore. They stop, right? And unfortunately, I don't know, I don't know what the best way to stay motivated is. For me, it was just sort of, I just sort of let go of what I thought other people. I don't have a good answer to this question. I just I stopped caring what other people thought because I didn't like the jobs I had, and I knew that this was something I really wanted. So I guess the best way to motivate yourself is figure out what you really want. Because as soon as you figure out what you really want, it all is. That's if when you figure out what you really want, you won't have an answer to the question because it doesn't really make. You'll be like me because I figured out what I want, which is I love building things that fill a need and that people want, and that drives me to do everything, and it makes it simple. So
You
there's not.
nailed it. That's
Oh,
such a
okay.
great answer. I love it because I think, this is what I learned from my journey is education or having a career should be an inside out journey. You really have to discover what is that thing that wakes you up early in the morning and makes you love Monday as much as you love Friday. And I think so many, going back to education, right? Today's topic, but so many of our young children, they just go to school because the society tells them they have to go to school, the media tell them, their parents, they don't really spend some time to really go within to discover what is that thing I want to do. For me is to make a difference in education. There are so many things I don't know, but because I know exactly what I want to do is to grow classroom without walls, and this desire to build this thing keeps me going on a daily basis, to figure things out on my own. So I can't agree more with you, Gage. You just nailed it. I love it. I think you really have to spend some time to ask yourself those important questions. Who are you? What do you want to do? And then discover that and then have the career to be aligned with your inner authentic self.
Yeah, I think that's it. It took me a second to connect the dots, but I do think that's the key is figure out what actually motivates you, and then everything else will fall into place.
Yeah, it's like inside our journey. And I hope everyone watching this right now can really, if you have children or if you are an educator yourself, really to encourage the next generation, the young children to go within. And if you are entrepreneur yourself, you also ask yourself, for me, live streaming is something that I'm so passionate about. I just love talking. I love doing interviews. And when I started my journey, nobody was watching my show, 0%. But I enjoyed doing this, even though nobody showed up. I enjoyed it. I loved it. And I kept showing up. And slowly this show has grown. Like all of you guys are still here with us, even after epic technology failure. So, right? But like just like this inner thing is so important. Yeah. So I love it. And just kind of to wrap up, share with us what is next for you. Some exciting features about StreamYard that you are working on. So share something with us.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're actually about to add moderation ability from the StreamYard studio, which will be nice. So if you have any trolls or anything like that, you'll be able to block them. And then also a feature for super chats for people that know what those are. On YouTube, people can donate. So we have those highlighted and whatnot. And then more longer term stuff. We're going to continue to add new network integrations, so Twitch and things like that. And then just make the product the core of the product. We always want to stay focused on that. We want, because the three pillars we always talk about are ease of use, stability, and professional streams. So we just want to continue making things as easy as possible, as stable as possible, and make people look like pros. So that sort of guides everything we do.
I love it. I wonder, here's a suggestion, because I host quite a few live streaming shows. And besides this one, I also host another one, which is on every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that show focuses on social media, digital marketing. I wonder if you guys can have a feature that allows people to directly add the event to their own personal calendar.
Okay.
And so far, I'm using this tool called the event table that allows you to add the event to your personal calendar. So right now I'm relying on Facebook or maybe LinkedIn if they have this feature to send people reminders. But for me, I don't really check my social media notifications that much because I'm just bombarded.
There's so many of them. Yeah.
But I do pay attention to my calendar notification. And I think, maybe that is something you guys can think about. Also for someone like me, I host quite a few shows. Even the show is always on the same time every single week. People get confused. Maybe they don't want to join this week. So if they can, they are interested in one particular one, they can add it to their calendar. I think that would be really great.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. It's a calendar integrations.
Exactly. So we don't rely
we can definitely explore that.
Facebook or LinkedIn or any social media platform. We want to take more control. Yeah. So that's great. I'm really excited, guys. If you want to check out more, learn more about StreamYard, I will also enter the link in the comment section. And to really wrap this up, Geige, I want to ask you, if you were the principal of a school and you had the resources, the money, everything you needed to design a perfect school, how will that school look like? Share with us.
It's another great question. I don't know how good of a principal I would be, so hopefully it would be okay. I would definitely spend a lot. I would spend a lot of time looking at where the world is at now, because the world's changing very, very fast. I feel like that's a big place where traditional education sort of messes up, is they're stuck like 20 or more years behind. So I would collaborate with these companies that care a lot about education, like Google Cloud and like AWS and like Intel, and see what programs could be created together to create a really great educational experience that would set them up for real skills in the real world. Is where I would start, I think.
Oh, I love this. I think one biggest takeaway from our interview today, besides like technology issues happen all the time, is really this concept of applying, experimenting with things, not just learning based on the book, but actually, do this. And, you see our hand, our heart, our mind all together. So where can people learn more about you and follow you on social media?
So I don't have much of a personal following. I'm sort of Geige equals StreamYard type of thing. So on Twitter, we're StreamYard app. And then, of course, there's just our website, streamyard.com, which is where you actually use the app. And then if you ever have any questions for us, we're very responsive. You can email us, contact@streamyard.com, or join our Facebook community group, which I'm very active in, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
What's the name of the Facebook community?
StreamYard community.
StreamYard. I will also make sure to enter the link in the comment section. I'm also a member in the group. I'm not that active, but I just love supporting them. And so thank you so much, Geige. This is great. I just love talking with young people who are out there crushing it and learning, figure things out. It gives me so much hope for the future coming from my own academic background. So thank you for spending an hour with us. And thank you for being a semi-host for like 10 minutes for the show. Thank you. And thank you everyone for joining us live from all over the globe. And this show is called What is School For? And I go live on every Friday at this hour, noon Eastern Standard Time. We discuss ways to talk about, debate, and disrupt education. So next Friday, I have another amazing rock star alternative education expert to come to the show to continue the conversation. So I hope to see you next Friday. And thank you so much, Geige. And thank you so much, everyone. Have a great weekend. Bye.